Jeff's safety message here, which is proper face covering for safe at work. So as we move towards...
All right, everyone, do me a big favor and mute your microphone.
Mute your mic.
Everyone mute your mics.
No, it's sharp. Here, let me sharpen it a little more for you.
Okay. Let me just check everyone. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to get started. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I'll try to look for you, but raise your hand and I'll call on you to answer, okay? We'll chat a little bit. The first question I want to ask you is, have you ever tried to get what you want without using words? Have you ever tried to get what you want without using words? All right, Tristan, you want to answer that question? You want to answer, Tristan?
You can talk now. All the time.
All right, Tristan, how do you do that?
Most of the time. So sometimes when I'm hungry, and I go to my mom and rub my stomach.
Okay. So body language. All right, good. Anyone else have an idea? How do you, okay, Levi?
Sometimes we'll play Pictionary and you try to get the other person to guess what you're drawing. So.
Right. Okay, so pictures. Excellent. Drawing pictures. Anyone else have an idea how you can get what you want without using words? I don't see anyone else with their hand up. Don't want to miss anybody. I have to scroll through a few screens. So, oh, okay. Alyssa?
I try stealing.
Okay.
I steal candy, but no one.
From your mom's, Probably not the most morally upright way of getting what you want, but I can see how that would work. All right, Tyler?
I know where the candy is.
Well, sometimes when I want my dog to sit, I do a motion that she knows I want her to sit or lie down.
So a command, like a body language command with your hands or something? Yeah. Those are great answers, you guys. And we'll see how that ties with our lesson here in just a minute, okay? I'm going to do a screen share, so stay muted for me. And happy Cinco de Mayo Day, by the way. What are the odds of us having our art lesson in South America on Cinco de Mayo? That's pretty cool. Cinco de Mayo is not Mexicans' Independence Day, by the way. It's just a celebration for their victory over France, okay? Not their Independence Day. So let's get to our slide presentation. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. We're going to talk a little bit. You'll listen to me talk while I share it. So, South America. Here is a quote. It says, "Be brave, take risks. Nothing can substitute experience." This is by a writer from South America, Paulo. Okay. All right. So, where are we? We had started out, let me move my screen share thingy here. Hold on. We started off in Louisiana in North America, and we traveled through the water by boat to get to South America. All right. Now I want you to check out this map here. And on the map, we're looking for the country called Chile. You guys see it? It looks like a long, skinny chili pepper. Okay.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So that is where we're going to be doing our art lesson from today. Now, this is a very blurry picture of a piece of art. This word is a Spanish word, and I'm going to try to pronounce it. The two L's make a y sound, so it's Arpillera. Arpilleras. Arpilleras, I think is how you say it. Arpilleras. These are fabric art pieces that are very colorful, but they were depictions or stories about people's life in South America. So if you look at these, again, this is really blurry, I apologize. You can see people farming, you can see animals and mountains and houses. So that shows their culture. So they're telling a story with fabric, with pictures. Now, these Arpilleras right here are also telling a story, but they're not telling the same story as the first ones we saw. These are stories about a situation that happened in South America. It was a bad time in South America, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But here you see women dancing and playing music. You see them in chains at the top right picture. They're chained together, almost like a protest. Sometimes people would wear chains and chain themselves to trees or things if they were protesting. And then the bottom right picture shows a tree with some pictures of people on it and some trees without people on it. So maybe people are missing. That's a little cue to our story. Oh, here's what happened in South America. There was a form of government known as a democracy, kind of similar to ours, but then that was taken over by a military dictatorship by Pinochet. He's the guy on the right. He was not a very kind ruler. He was rather unkind. And he thought he would lead the country with force. So he thought one way to get people to obey were to take away all the men that would fight against him. So he would take all the men away from the families in Chile. And that left the women, he thought, helpless. But he underestimated the women of Chile. They came together in community and they rose up in protest, but he wouldn't let them speak. He wouldn't allow them to tell their story with words in a newspaper or a letter. He was very controlling. So they had to come up with a way to get what they wanted without words. And so they used the arpilleras that I showed you. So they would sew these little quilts together that told a story of what was happening to them in Chile. And then the humane groups and churches, the humanitarian groups and churches would take these quilts and sell them to people all over the world to make money. And that money went to these women to help support them and feed their families while the men were gone. And so they were able to still tell their story, but without words. Often they didn't sign these little quilts that they made because they were too scared of being found out by the government. They also were only allowed to do one, maybe two of these quilts a week because they didn't want to use it to make a lot of money, more money than they needed, just enough to survive. And they also would use their school uniforms. So the women would use the shirts of their children's uniforms that were often blue for the skies or whatever they had around the house. And they would come together in community and sew these little quilts together. So for you guys today, if you are kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade, I want you to think about how you can make your own arpilleras. So you can use paper. If you have colored paper, you can do that. And here you can see the students imitated a real arpillera with some colored paper by cutting out different images. Here's another arpillera where they show some painted flowers and little houses and some torn paper making the different layers. Remember, the horizon is where the sky meets the earth, and then the background is anything really far away, close to the horizon. Then the middle ground is in the middle, and the foreground is anything towards the bottom or closer to you. So you guys are going to be making a collage. A collage is a group of papers put together to make a picture. You can use colored paper, painted paper, or even fabric like the one in the top right. That's pieces of old fabric that someone had that they used to make a collage. Now, your collage can also speak about community or something you want to change in your community. So this person made a collage of a city with a garden. Now, maybe this person's trying to say that our cities don't have enough green space. Maybe we need more green space. Or maybe this garden is saying, hey, let's come together as a group and make something beautiful in our city. Okay, so they're sending a message without using words. All right, so for my upper school kiddos, even if you're in 6th grade, you can do this as well. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, you guys are gonna be doing a symbolic community collage. So what I want you to do is to take an image that you think represents community. Here, this person used a hospital coat, maybe a doctor's jacket, and then he drew a stethoscope, and he put some other pictures in the background that showed what you might think is a doctor or a hospital, and that's how he's expressing community of people that are caring for others. This person's collage is something they want to see changed in their society. They don't like the fact that there's poverty in their city. A lot of times in cities, older buildings are cheaper rent, and they'll be bought up and torn down to make bigger, newer buildings. The people that can't afford to stay in them are now pushed out to find other housing. And oftentimes those are the people that can't afford to live in those big fancy buildings. So he's speaking out, or she's speaking out against poverty with their collage, their Arpillera. Okay, so maybe you consider community to be your church or your religion, and you can make a collage about that. Or maybe community to you is just being with friends and getting coffee or hanging out. I know we're really struggling with that right now. We don't get the chance to get together. So maybe you can make a collage about something that you're missing in community. Or maybe it's just being with your friends, going to a concert or to a movie, and you miss those things, and that's what being in community means to you. You can draw a collage or paint a picture about that. So here's one thing I want to read to you. This is from Marjorie, who is talking about her response to the women of Chile and the Pinochet's dictatorship there. And she's talking about how she learned empathy and compassion from these women. And she talks about how she sees something that is lacking in society, which is to put yourself in someone else's shoes and to engage with life of another human being. That human being could be your neighbor, it could be your own family, but that is what she feels like makes up society. And so we here at LCA are also being asked to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. We're called to love our family, our neighbors, and our community by staying home. So you guys, while you're at home, can be working on developing compassion for others during this time of isolation. And I don't want you just to take this information that I'm giving to you today just to become smarter, but I rather see you become people that are looking with your eyes and feeling with your heart so you can become a better human being, okay? So I'm gonna come out of my share screen here and come back to you guys. All right, so I'm going to show you now my TV, my telephone, I mean, and I'm going to show you just a real quick explanation from that point. You guys have been very patient with me, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to pull up this screen here. Give me just a second. Okay, so you guys should be able to see this image in front of you. What I did to make this for my lower school kiddos is I just took some plain white paper and some crayons, and I went outside and I found anything that had texture, and I made some textured papers with different color crayons. And then I tore part of my paper and made this background right here. So the horizon line is where the sky meets the earth here. And then I laid in some mountains with some textured paper and I glued that on. Then I cut out this little bitty house by folding some paper in half and cutting it in the shape of an arrow. Now, here's some more textured paper that I did, and I'm just going to tear it again, maybe in some more pointy mountains. Okay, and I'm going to lay that at the bottom of my paper, and you would glue that on with some glue if you have it, or tape if you don't have glue. I just have this old glue stick. Okay, and then if you want, you can continue decorating with markers. You can make a story without words about what it is you would like to see in your community. You can also make this cute little origami house. Start with that. You just start with a little square piece of paper and you fold it in half once and then twice. And then you open it up and you fold each edge into the center, And then you can take each of those edges and fold it down to make the rooftop. Do that again. Fold it down to make the rooftop. Now you have a little origami house. And if you glue that onto your Arpillera, then you can actually open it up and draw a picture inside about your family or something else that you want to share. Okay? So you can draw windows and doors on that as well. So you can make a lot of these in different sizes. Remember, if it's close to the horizon, it's smaller. And as it gets to the foreground, it is bigger, okay? So your bigger house would be down here and your smaller house would be in the background, okay? So this is just for the lower grades. And like I said, my upper grades, I'm gonna stop my share screen. My upper grades are going to be doing the collage as well of community. So find one object around your house that you think symbolizes community to you, or something you want to see changed in your society, or something maybe you like about society. And then I want you to draw a collage about that. And you can do whatever you want as far as medium, if it's pencil or pen, paint, whatever you happen to have around your house. So I'm going to ask you some more questions. So raise your hand if you want to answer. So what were the needs of the Chilean women? What do they need? Raise your hand if you want to answer that question, and I'll call on you. Is that Kathy? All right, Kathy, go ahead, hon.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
Okay, so let me repeat the question and maybe you can collect your thoughts while I repeat it. What were the needs of the Chilean women? You remember, Kathy?
Equality.
Okay, you want to express that a little more? What do you mean by equality? What did they want?
More rights, I guess.
They did not have a whole lot of rights. Yeah, they were definitely speaking out over their limitation of rights. Did someone else want to speak up to that? Let me see. Anyone else want to answer? What did the Chilean women need? What were the needs of the Chilean women? Does anyone remember? I'm not seeing hands. Okay, so we'll review that one. That was the fact that the harsh dictatorship military government took away their husbands, their brothers, their uncles, their sons, their fathers, and so they needed to have their voice heard, but they weren't allowed to speak. So they had to use those arpilleras as their way of communicating with other people. How was community essential? How was community very necessary for the Chilean women? What did they need? They needed community. Why did they need it? Anyone want to answer that question? Okay. So they needed community to get together in order to help each other, to share in their burden of not having a voice. And they would get together and sew those little fabric pieces to sell to people. So remember, your artwork can also express community. And we are being called to love others by staying home and by putting ourselves in someone else's shoes right now. So let's continue to strive for excellence. Does anyone have questions over their assignment this week before we all say goodbye? I don't see anything in the chats about that. Okay, so remember, lower school is doing a collage, an arpillera, and upper school, you are doing a collage as well, but on an image of community, okay? Kind of engaged around community. All right, so I'm gonna, you guys can unmute for the last little bit of class. And I hope you guys have understood the need for community and how it's so nice that you guys have the freedom of speech here.
We're going to get a additional, we'll call it town hall meeting. We're going to go through all the protocols
All right,
necessary to the building. We're going to show how that will
Bye,
work.
Sasha.
We're going to show you signage, your PPE that's available.
don't forget
Bye,
that.
Tristan. Hi,
It's
Ian.
Bye, Ian. Everybody.
Bye, Sasha.
Calvin
Hi,
here.
guys.
Everyone,
we're leaving.
Bye,
Hi, Calvin. Hi, Calvin. Hi, Ian.
Bye, Calvin.
Upper school.
Hi, Ian. Bye.
Great, guys.
Bye.
oh,
Bye, Jackson.
Christmas.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Merry
Cecilia.
Christmas.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Scream. Okay. Pine cone. Pine cone.
What the? Pine cone?
Pine cone. Yes, pine cone.
What about pine cone?
I have